Hey guys, and welcome back. In this short video, we're going to go over the most commonly used blend modes. Now, here they are, really simple. Normal, which we're not even going to do anything because a normal blend mode literally just looks normal. Then we have multiply, which will darken. Screen, which will lighten. And then we have soft light and overlay, which will both lighten the lights and darken the darks. So let's go ahead and get into our examples. So we're going to start off with multiply. So we have two images here. We're in chapter 1, Intro to Blending, 04, commonly used blending modes, and we have two images for multiply. So let's hold Control or Command and click on both those JPEGs, and let's hit open. There we go. Now, here we have two images, and this image, you can see we have a relatively light sky with a pretty dark foreground, and this image is just a sky. So I want to take the image here, I'm going to take the foreground with the people and everything like that and put it on this sky. So what we're going to do is use our move tool. So let's go ahead and use our move tool. Let's shift, click, and drag from one image to another one. Okay, and I'm going to hit F for full screen. Okay, now let's go ahead and make this smaller. So I'm going to hit Control or Command T, and then I'm going to grab my corner up there and drag it down. Holding Shift, just going to make sure we maintain our aspect ratio. And let's just try something like that. So in this case, I want to use my multiply blend mode, which is going to darken. Okay, so it's in our darken group. So let's go ahead, we'll look at our blend modes here. We're going to go to, remember this is our darken group, it starts with darken. We're going to go to multiply. So here we click on multiply, and let's go ahead and click off there, and we can see that in fact the ground, let's just bring that down just a little bit. In fact, the ground does look pretty good. Only one thing though, is you can see where the sky used to be. So next thing we're going to do is we're just going to make the light parts of this layer a little bit lighter. Okay, so remember, when we're in a multiply blend mode, light areas disappear. Black areas are the things that stay. So if we make the light areas a little bit lighter, they're just going to totally disappear. So I'll show you how to do it. Super easy. Let's go ahead and click on our layer. We're going to go to Layer, down to New Adjustment Layer, and I'm going to go to Levels. There we go. And let's hit OK. And then I want to make sure that I clip this Levels Adjustment Layer to this layer here. So by clipping it, it's going to make sure that it's only visible on this layer that's set to multiply. And we've gone over that before. So let's click on our little icon for clipping mask. So you can click it and it says this adjustment affects all layers below. Click to clip layer. So let's go ahead and clip that. As long as you have your little arrow here, then it's clipped, which means it'll only affect this underlying layer. So what I'm going to do now is take my white point, and when you're working with levels, here's your white point, here's your midpoint, okay, and here's your dark point. So let's go ahead and take our white areas, and I'm just going to make them brighter. And you can see as I do this, literally my sky just disappears. So dunk right to about there, and my sky is completely gone. So all we have to do is we can turn this off and on at any time. There we go. We can see it looks pretty good. And now I can still move this layer all around everywhere I want to. There we go. And we can see our levels adjustment layer that's clipped to it will continue to affect it. All right, guys, so that's the multiply blend mode. So anytime you want your dark areas to stay and your light areas to go away, use the multiply blend mode. The next one we're going to talk about is screen, which is the exact opposite. So if you want your light areas to stay and your dark areas to go away, then you want to use the screen blend mode. So let's get back to our sample images here. We're in chapter 1, section 4, and we have screen 1 and screen 2. So let's go ahead and hold Control or Command. We'll open up both of those. There we go. And in this image, we have like a really nice sparkler photo with a bunch of bokeh in here. And here we have a picture of someone holding some fairy lights. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my move tool, and we'll just click and drag this from one image to the other. Okay, and let's hit F for full screen. Now, in this case, I want the dark areas to go away. I want night to disappear, and I just want to see these light effects. So we're going to use our screen blending mode. So let's click on our blending modes, go down to screen, and here we can see now our light effects are perfectly visible. So the dark completely goes away and the light effects are really nice. Now, if you want to continue to adjust this, you can most definitely do so using a levels adjustment layer. So let's go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and over to levels. Okay, and you can even say right here, because we know we want to use it as a clipping mask. Remember, that's what makes it only affect the layer underneath it. You can even say here, use previous layer to create clipping mask. So let's hit OK there. Perfect. Now, what I could do is, let's say that a little bit of our darks were showing. I could make my darks even darker, which would hide my dark areas. Okay, or here I can make my lights even lighter. There we go. So I can bring this, I'm not going to go too far on it, but we can bring it right to about there. All right, and moving my layer around. That looks pretty good, except we can see there's like someone's hand there, right, from the original. Not a big deal. Let's use our keyboard shortcuts that we made. So I'm going to hit Shift-Option-Command-M. That's a layer mask. If you don't want to use that, totally okay. You can just click right here on your layer mask icon. And I'm going to hit B for my brush tool. And then I just want to paint black. Okay, I want to paint black right over this little hand area on the layer. And that's just going to make sure that that disappears. Okay, so the hand is completely gone. And here we have our nice bokeh effect over top of our fairy lights. There we go. So it's a picture of someone with some firecrackers. I think it's kind of fun that it creates this. It's a little bit like a, I don't know, looks like they're holding a fairy or some kind of special effects in their hands. So really cool use. Now if I change this back to normal, which you can do at any time, we can see just looks like a regular image where I just erased part of it. Okay, or I could go down to multiply again, which would make it invisible where the light areas are. So remember, multiply and screen are opposites. So let's go back to screen, and here we have. Our effect is complete. So just remember, if you want the light areas to stay in a photo and the dark areas to go away, use screen blending mode. So the last couple of blending modes that are used really often are in the same group. They're in the contrast group, and these are overlay and soft light. And they're very similar to each other. Basically, soft light is just a softer, more subtle version of overlay. And because they're in the contrast group, middle gray, 50% gray is going to be invisible, and anything lighter than that is going to make things lighter, and anything darker is going to make things darker. So let's go ahead and open up our image. We're still in Chapter 1, Section 4, and we're looking at soft light and overlay. So let's hit open here, and I'm going to hit F for full screen. Now in this case, let's say we just want to create a new layer, and I'm just going to use the brush tool. So let's hit B for the brush tool. Then I'm going to hold Alt or Option, which gives me a little eyedropper here. Okay, let's just sample a pretty light color here. And I'm going to choose a nice big brush and then just paint over top of my image with this light color. Now, let's take a pretty dark color. So I'm going to hold Alt or Option. We'll grab this dark blue, and then I'm going to paint this here. Let's click on our colors. I'm going to make it even a little bit darker. Okay, we'll just paint this here around the edges. So again, I'm literally just painting some colors around my image. Okay, but remember, the contrast group makes lights even lighter, and it makes darks darker. Okay, so what we're going to do now, let's go ahead and change our blending modes and see how this looks on our image. So let's go ahead and change this from normal down to overlay, and here we can see it's made our image more, it's added contrast. This is the contrast group. So the lights are even lighter, and the darks are even darker. Now, the other very commonly used blending mode is soft light, which is a more subtle version. So it makes your lights lighter and it makes your darks darker, just does it in a much more subtle way. So in this case, I just painted with a paintbrush on this layer. If I had a solid color fill layer, I'll just show you guys how to do that. You can just go to your adjustment layers, solid color, and if I wanted to, you know, add a, there we go, like a nice sunset color, and set this to overlay. Okay, it's going to be on the whole image, or soft light, again, on the whole image. Or you can just bring in totally new images and set them to soft light and overlay, and you'll get interesting effects, which we're going to be doing in Chapter 3. So that's really it, guys. Normal, obviously we know what that does. Okay, screen keeps the light areas and gets rid of the dark areas. Multiply keeps the dark areas and gets rid of the light areas. And then soft light and overlay lighten your lights and darken your darks. So if you're just starting out, those are going to be used 90, 80, we'll say 88% of the time you're in Photoshop. Those are going to be your go-to blend mode. So I know there are a lot. We're going to cover them all in this tutorial. But if you're like, okay, I just need to know how to do this stuff, stick to your normal, screen, multiply, soft light, and overlay, and you're going to be good to go. Alright guys, that's it for our commonly used blending modes. Now in our next video, we're going to show you guys blending modes with tools. So up until this point, it's just been layers, but you can also use blending modes with tools. We'll see you in the next video.